We talk a lot about culture. I know that I do because I recognize that everything flows downhill from culture. And so when you talk about culture, and as we take this journey together, you're going to hear me bring that word up a lot. Let's just get somewhat of an understanding. Our culture is a sum total of attitudes, beliefs, ways of thinking and behaving. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit, because I went to go see the Barbie movie. But let me tell you how I got there. In my ecosystem, or within my culture, my specifically conservative ecosystem, I don't have a lot of time because of the job that I do to really delve in deep on a variety of what's going on, right? And so I rely on those that I vetted to some degree, and they come across as being conservative. I vetted them and I listen to them. I don't really necessarily read everything that they put out, but enough of the headlines. And so this is how I got a little bit jaded when I was coming to a conclusion on, was I going to go see the Barbie movie? And more importantly, was I going to take my daughter along? And based on what I had seen, the tweets, skimming various posts, I had come to the conclusion that this was a movie I did not want to have anything to do with. I was told somewhere, somehow, that there's a simulated abortion scene at the beginning of it. I was told there's a transgender person in it. And essentially, I walked away from listening to those who are a part of my ecosystem, a part of my culture, that this was the left up to their old tricks. And so essentially, I want to stay away, and I most certainly want to keep my children away. So there you have it. Until my 14-year-old daughter came to me and said, "Mommy, I want to go see this movie." And of course, I began to regurgitate. "Sweetie, I was told, I read that there is a simulated abortion scene. I don't think this is something we want to do." My daughter was sad, but she knows her mama. And so she just kind of went away. But it didn't rest on me very well. In fact, I began to think about it a lot, and I was away on business, and I just started thinking, you know what, I'm going to call my daughter, and I'm going to invite her, 3 of her best friends, to come with mommy for a movie and a dinner. We're going to watch this movie, and we take them out to dinner, and then we'll talk about it. Because the reality is that these little girls, my daughter's best friends, they are a part of her culture as well. Essentially, my goal was to deprogram these little girls. We'll go watch this movie that those in my ecosystem, who I've subscribed to their emails, I peruse or skim over the headlines, I read or skim over their Twitter posts, and they told me not to go see this. They told me it is really horrible, but something inside of me is telling me, take your daughter, take 3 of her friends out to a movie and a dinner, with the sole purpose of going in, hating this movie, getting information to sit across the dinner table, and now start to deprogram these little girls. That was my goal. I actually loved the movie. I loved it. I was so taken aback. As I said, I went in prepared to hate this movie. And instead, I ended up loving it. I mean, I cried. I laughed. The humanism of it all, it just struck me different. And maybe because I was prepared to hate it, I don't know, it allowed me to just be completely blindsided by what it is. So much so, my daughter and I have now gone to see this movie twice. I know, it's crazy. But let me just read a little bit. I know I'm going to dive a little deep in the world of girls, but bear with me. There's a place where we're going. There's a destination in the end of this. So bear with me. But this is some of the things that when I walked in, I sat down, like I said, I was ready and prepared. I was armed, guards up. I'm going to hate this movie. This is what it starts off with. It's this self-absorbed world in which Barbie is living in. It's a choreographed life. and in fact, they have a choreograph. It's almost like tongue-in-cheek. There's this choreographed dance that is really symbolic of this choreographed life that these people are living, right? Kens and Barbie. So it's very self-absorbed world. Everyone so happy. There's no difference. Everyone the same. No individualism. Is plastic. Now, I took notes. Like I said, the first time I went, I loved it. And I was so shocked. I didn't really know what to do with all of this. So I went back a second time. This time I went with my notebook and pen in hand because I wanted to take notes, because I wanted to come and talk to you about it. Because again, there's a destination and the end of this, but that was the beginning. It was this very self-absorbed world. This isn't a real world, because you and I know life is messy. Life is complicated. And this wasn't the beginning of that. But then fast forward a little bit. And now this stereotypical Barbie, that's Margot Robbie. Her name is stereotypical Barbie. Her world begins to unravel. She begins to malfunction. Life's not perfect. She wakes up with bad breath, flat feet, cellulite. Life is complicated. And now she's having these irrepressible thoughts of death. I know. But then it continues on, because she wants to go back to the world where life is perfect. Everybody's happy. There are no rainy days. Everyone is exactly the same. But life is getting complicated for her. And now she ends up talking to another Barbie, weird Barbie. Bear with me. I know. Weird Barbie, who tells her, well, you got to go find your human. And Barbie leaves the plastic world of Barbie dumb and goes out on this quest to find her human. And really, Barbie's quest is really to find humanity, because up to this point, her whole life has been plastic. This is so plastic. This is so TikTok. This is so Instagram, right? No one ever shows you the before and the after. They just take a snapshot in time of when everything is perfect. And then they put it out there, and you and I go out consuming all of this stuff, envying other people's one moment in time, because it's not the beginning of their day. It's not the end of their day. It's just a snapshot of a picture at a moment in time where camera, lights, action, everyone is perfect. And so Barbie is now leaving that world, and she's on her quest to find humanity. Continue with me. Then, I love it. Will Ferrell, he is so hilarious. And he is the CEO of Mattel. And he says, essentially, men, we are here to sell dreams and imaginations. And then the creator of Barbie herself, Barbie ends up, I know, if you have not seen this, spoiler alert, Barbie ends up running away. Now she meets the creator, her creator, Ruth, and Ruth looks at her and says, you look just right. Because right now Barbie is dealing with flat feet, cellulite, bad breath. She don't feel perfect. But Ruth looks at her and says, you look just right. The real world doesn't look like we think it is. It's not perfect. Life is complicated. Humans are complicated. Life changes. There's an older lady. Barbie is looking at her and looking at the passage of time, the wrinkles, and this woman is content and happy. She doesn't look perfect, but Barbie looks at her and says, you're beautiful. And here's the thing that was really getting me. Barbie says, stereotypical. She said, I'm stereotypical Barbie, which means I'm stereotypical beautiful. I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a president. I'm not good enough to be important. We don't have to be extraordinary, Ruth begins to tell her. You just have to try. If we cannot be perfect, we have to try to make it better. And then it ends with this song of, what was I made for? What was I made for? Why am I here? What is my purpose? So again, this movie started off with this very plastic, stereotypical Barbie world. And then life starts getting complicated for Barbie. She leaves this ideal of perfection in search for humanity. And in the end of the movie, she's asking the question, what is my purpose? What was I made for? What's real? What's not real? I'm telling you guys, I loved it. I cried. I laughed. It touched me in a very deep way. It touched me as a mom. It touched me as a woman, the challenges, the things that are, I'm not perfect. I don't feel important sometimes. And yet I'm here. And yet I feel as though there's something bigger than just the mundane things, right? That we're involved in and that we're supposed to pay attention to. I'm here for something bigger. What was I made for? So I tell you, I was shocked and beside myself, and I loved the movie. And then instantly I got real pissed. I did. I was so upset. I was so upset. There's a scene where stereotypical Barbie world is coming unhinged, and she goes to weird Barbie, who begins to tell her, if you want to come back to this world, your perfect life, you're going to have to leave Barbie dumb and go out and find your human and find out who's playing with you. And stereotypical Barbie says, who's playing with me? And she said, listen, girl, we're all being played with. And that's exactly how I felt. I felt like these clickbait conservatives were, that they had played me. And I wasn't happy about it whatsoever. And it reminded me of a book that I'm currently reading by Jill Laporte. She's a Harvard professor, currently on sabbatical. I am hoping to get her on this show. The book is fascinating, but there's one section in there by renowned author, physicist Eugene Burdick. And he says the definition of power is the most rudimentary form of power. It's cheap power, but it works. He said the formula for that is fear plus division equals power in the hands of those who can stoke it, right? So if I can stoke fear, if I can stoke division, then it's cheap. It's not very imaginative. It's not very creative, but it gives me power over you. And that's how I felt. It just so happened, it's like the intersection of it all. I am listening to my ecosystem, those within my culture who I have allowed to come into my atmosphere, and they assist me in creating an ecosystem of a collection of ideas and beliefs, what I believe, what I think about things, how I behave, whether I go to a movie or not go to a movie, as simple as that. These people have been invited. I invited them into my world, and I allowed them to be subject matter experts or to have some sense of authority over me and helping me to understand, to parse what's real, what's not real, what's good, what's not good. And I think that's real for all of us. I mean, who has unlimited hours in a day to go and read every review or to read every book? So I think we automatically abdicate much of our knowledge or what we know to others to inform us. And it was a lot of people who, the way the algorithms work in Twitter and the emails that I've subscribed to, a lot of conservatives who I didn't hear a positive one of them. It was all about click on my link and let me stoke fear and division. The left is at it again. And so I'm coming out of this movie. I'm completely undone because I was prepared to hate it. I love it. In fact, it is touching me at a very deep level of my own insecurities, of my own worries, the things that I obsess about as a mom. Am I doing it right? There was one scene where Ruth the Creator looks at Barbie and says, every mother stops so that her daughter can run past her and look back and see how far she's come. And that struck me with my own daughter because it is every fiber in my body want to be a wonderful example to her, with the understanding that there is coming a time where she is going to eclipse me and keep moving forward. And hopefully she will look back and remember me and tell others about me. So anyway, this movie, I had no idea what I was expecting. And after all of my feelings of, I'm so grateful that I went and watched this movie, I really was upset because now I realized I had just been played with the cheapest form of accruing power, stoking fear and division to get me to live in this little box of fearing the world around me and being angry about everything. And it's not creative. Like I said, it's not imaginative. It's this constant stoking of fear. Be afraid. Be very afraid. This constant stoking of division. Me, them, you. I hate you, gay, transgender, black, white. It doesn't matter. Rich, poor. We're divided. And in fact, we live in a culture that really elevates all the many ways we are different. And they tell us that our differences is what makes us strong. I reject that. I don't believe that. I believe it's the thing that unites us as Americans. With all of this diversity, we're still united under one flag. And it's whatever those strings are that unites us that makes us strong, not the things that divide us. But it's a cheap form of accruing power. And that's exactly how I felt. And in Jill Laporte's book, she goes on, the book is called If Then. Again, I will come back to this book and talk about it because it has answered so many of my questions. But in her book called If Then, if we do this, then they would do that. The whole premise, and essentially she talks about the foundation of what we now know to be the foundation of Google and Twitter and Amazon and Facebook and really all the mega data. It's the foundation. So she's talking about the foundation of it. And it started with them categorizing people onto a punch card. Because if I can divide you, black, suburban, woman, gay, straight, transgender, and then I can feed you into an algorithm, and then they, whoever they are, who sit high and look low, they can then do scenarios with us, with the population of us, and say, if we do this, then they will do that, right? So, and it becomes predictive. They're predicting our behaviors. And so if they do this, and I walked right into it, they stoked the fear in me. The sky is falling. And now they had me with the microscope trying to find everything that's wrong about this movie. I was just watching Jordan Peterson a few moments ago in his interview with Senator Mike Lee. And I'm still watching this particular video, but one of the things that stuck out to me, Jordan Peterson is trying to understand why Americans are not asking critical questions about the war in Ukraine. We're sending hundreds of billions of dollars. We have our men and women feet on the ground. No one in this administration, whether Democrat or Republican warmongers, have come out to tell us whether or not, how do we know we've won? What are the metrics we're using that once we hit these metrics in Ukraine, then we can all look around and say, hey, we just won. We don't even know. We're just send more money, send more ammunition, send more tanks. And if you don't agree, then you're a Putin sympathizer. Shut up, sit down. We know better. Just believe us. We're the experts, right? And so Jordan Peterson is asking Senator Mike Lee, why is it that Americans are not asking their critical questions? And Mike Lee says, quite frankly, it's because they're not being told the truth. See, you thought I was here just to talk about the Barbie movie. I'm not. Because whether it's about the Barbie movie or whether it's about Ukraine, it's the fact that we have to take ownership. Now, I would love for these people, I will not mention their names right now, but I would love for these people that we've invited into our world, whether it's Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, or even some of the podcasters that we've invited into our space to keep us informed, because you and I are busy living life and can't possibly digest all of this information. I wish they would be honest. I wish they weren't clickbait conservatives or liberals or progressives. I wish it wasn't all about how many people can I get to watch my video. So let me say something shocking and loud and bold so that I can monetize off of them. I wish it wasn't about that. I wish it was truly, let's just put good information out here, put good analysis out here, and to help people know how to think. So whether it's just something as simple and trite as me taking my 14-year-old daughter to a Barbie movie with her friends and then out to dinner, or whether it's something as right now we're sleepwalking our way into World War III with a significant power, i.e. that being Russia, and we're walking Russia into the embrace of China. China, Russia, that is our number one foreign threat, not Ukraine. As sad as that may be, what's happening to Ukraine, and I believe that is sad on both sides of the aisle. I believe there's good people on both sides, good Ukrainians, good Russians who don't want to have their young slaughtered. I believe that, and I believe that it's wrong. But America cannot jump on her high horse and gallop all over the world fighting everyone's battle, unless, of course, it has a direct interest for us, America first, right? That's what we say. Long story short, we must do better. We must be better. My own Senate race, for those of you who may recall, I ran against Dr. Oz and Dave McCormick and several others here in the state of Pennsylvania last year. And I almost won that race. We were about to win that race. I know it. And I knew it when I started 15 months prior, right? I started 15 months prior and I did, you go to all the Republican meetings and you talk to all the people and they were polite. And I, like, oh, look at her. She's so cute, but there's no way she's going to win. But for 15 months, 1,500 miles every single week, we went almost door to door, large, small, didn't matter, room with 20 people, room with 1,000 people. We were talking to we were trying to get in front of every single Republican voter. And in fact, I started going into places where I knew they were not Republican voters, specifically in the Black community, because my mission was not so much for them to vote for me, but I wanted Black people. I had a dual purpose in that I wanted Black people to know what it felt like to be wooed. I wanted them to know what it felt like when a politician does not assume your vote is in their back pocket. Because typically, Democrat or Republican, when they come into the Black community, they come in with cans of beans to take photo ops, and then they leave, generally leaving them worse off than when they initially went in. And so I wanted the Black community to see what it looked like and felt like to have a quote unquote politician, myself, wooing them, because I believe their vote is important. But that's what I did. And in the end, the last 5 days, I was now toe to toe. I had already eclipsed McCormick in the polls. I was rising. There was a huge surge. Some polls said I had passed Dr. Oz. Some said I was neck and neck with him. We were about to win. 5 days left. And then the lies, the long knives started coming out, lying on us, right? And it was just silly lies, stupid lies. Didn't even make any sense. Because I'm Black, they were equating she could be a member of Black Lives Matter. Only had 5 days before the election. That Friday, the people were being told I was a member of Black Lives Matter. By Monday, they were telling people I was marching with the Proud Boys. Clearly, I couldn't be both of these people, right? Clearly, I couldn't be a member of Black Lives Matter and marching with the Proud Boys, right? And they only did it, those who were spreading these lies, they did it because there was a market for it. We, the people, have to do better. of not allowing ourselves, putting ourselves in a position where we don't allow ourselves to be so easily manipulated, because I believe it's coming again. We have a really big election. A lot is on the line. We have one particular person who is really, really good. And I am supporting him, Vivek Ramaswamy, in this election, presidential election. And now all of a sudden, I am hearing a lot of conversation about masks. I'm hearing a lot of conversation about take your booster COVID vaccine. We've had 3 years of silence, and now all of a sudden, doesn't feel like a coincidence, but they're trying to tell us, oh, it's a coincidence. Go back to sleep. Shut up. Be quiet. Just do as you're told. We're the experts. Listen to us. And what I'm saying to you, started out talking about Barbie. This is so much more than just about Barbie. This is our life. This is our country on the line. And we have to have an informed populace in order to do the hard work of taking our country back. And I believe it starts as simple as me and my house. As simple as, which movie am I going to go to? Do not allow yourselves to be played. Pay attention. Do better. Be better. Think beyond what is right in front of you. Okay? I'll talk to you next time.